Hey guys, tonight we step into the isolated world of a 19th century Swedish lighthouse keeper, where solitude and duty intertwine in ways you probably won't survive imagining. Picture yourself trudging up a rocky cliff, the cold sea wind biting at your cheeks, the salty spray stinging your eyes, and the faint, steady glow of a distant beacon promising safety to ships lost in the fog. This is no cozy cottage by the fire. It's a lonely tower perched on the edge of the world, where your only companions are the crashing waves and the endless sky. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, why not drop your location and local time in the comments? It's always fun to see who's joining this sleepy journey from where. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You arrive at the lighthouse just as dawn begins to break over the jagged coastline of 19th century Sweden. The air is sharp and salty, carrying the scent of seaweed and wet stone. This lighthouse is your worlder solitary sentinel standing guard against the treacherous Baltic Sea. The structure itself is sturdy but weather-beaten, its whitewashed walls streaked with salt and wind. You can almost hear the creak of the wooden stairs inside, worn smooth by decades of footsteps. Life here is a delicate balance between routine and unpredictability. Each day starts with a careful inspection of the massive oil lamps that crown the tower. These lamps are no ordinary candles. They are intricate devices fueled by whale oil or colza oil, burning bright enough to pierce the thickest fog and warn ships miles away. You polish the lenses meticulously, knowing that a single smudge could mean disaster for a passing vessel. Historians still argue whether the isolation of lighthouse keeping was a form of punishment or a chosen vocation for those craving solitude. Some records suggest keepers were volunteers seeking quiet, while others hint at a darker sideman, and sometimes women sent to remote outposts as a kind of exile. Either way, the loneliness is palpable. You learn to speak to the walls, to the light itself, and sometimes to the seagulls that circle overhead like noisy neighbours. Interestingly, many keepers developed quirky habits to stave off boredom. Some kept detailed journals filled with doodles and observations, while others talked to imaginary friends or practiced elaborate rituals before lighting the lamp. One keeper famously wore mismatched socks every day, believing it brought good luck to the ships below because, hey, if you're talking to socks, you might as well hope they work. The lighthouse is more than a building. It's a world unto itself. The keeper's quarters are cramped but functional, with a small stove for warmth and a narrow bed tucked into a corner. Outside, the wind howls relentlessly, and the waves crash against the rocks with a fury that never seems to wane. You learn to find comfort in the routine, the steady climb up the spiral staircase, the careful tending of the light, the quiet moments watching the horizon for signs of ships. As you settle into this rhythm, you realize that the lighthouse is both a beacon of hope and a prison of solitude. The light you maintain saves lives, but the cost is a constant battle against loneliness and the unforgiving elements. Yet, there's a strange beauty in this lifer connection to the sea and sky that few others experience. So, as the sun rises higher, you prepare for the day's duties, knowing that tonight, as always, you will keep the light burning bright, a solitary guardian in the vast Scandinavian wilderness. The dawn light spills softly through the narrow window of your cramped quarters, nudging you awake with a pale, chilly glow. You stretch out stiff limbs, the chill of the stone floor seeping through your threadbare slippers. Morning here is less about gentle awakenings and more about bracing yourself for the day's relentless demands. You trudge up the spiral staircase, each creak echoing in the silent tower, to tend to the heart of your world, the massive oil lamps that crown the lighthouse. These lamps are marvels of 19th century engineering, designed to burn bright and steady through the darkest nights and thickest fogs. You carefully check the oil reservoirs, replenishing them with whale oil or colza oil, depending on the season and supply. Whale oil, with its smoky scent and golden hue, is prized for its clean burn, but it's expensive and sometimes hard to come by. Colza oil, pressed from rapeseed, is a cheaper alternative but tends to produce more soot, meaning more frequent cleaning. You wipe the glass chimney meticulously, knowing that even a tiny smudge can scatter the light and reduce its reach a mistake that could cost lives. Historians still argue whether the transition from whale oil to vegetable oils was driven more by economics or early environmental awareness. Some say it was pure necessity as whale populations dwindled, while others suggest a budding concern for sustainability, even if it was rudimentary by today's standards. You light the lamps with a long taper, the flame flickering to life and casting dancing shadows on the whitewashed walls. The warm glow is comforting, but it's also a reminder of your responsibility. This light is a lifeline for sailors navigating the treacherous Baltic Sea, a beacon cutting through fog, storms, and darkness. While tending the lamps, you can't help but notice the peculiar rituals you've developed over time. You tap the glass 3 times, for good luck, an old superstition passed down from previous keepers who believed the light had a spirit that needed coaxing. You hum a tune, a sleepy sea shanty you picked up from a passing fisherman long ago, hoping to keep the loneliness at bay. And you check the clockwork mechanism that slowly rotates the lens, ensuring it turns smoothly and steadily, like the heartbeat of the lighthouse. The lens itself is a masterpiece Fresnel lenses, invented earlier in the century, revolutionized lighthouse technology by focusing the light into a powerful beam visible for miles. This invention saved countless lives and made lighthouses far more effective. You run your fingers along the cool glass, marveling at the precision of the prisms and the delicate balance of the rotating mechanism. But it's not all smooth sailing. The weather can turn on a dime, and storms often rage through the morning hours. You hear the wind picking up outside, a low growl that soon becomes a howl, rattling the windows and shaking the tower. You brace yourself, knowing that the real test is just beginning. You prepare for the day's chores, which include not only tending the lamps, but also maintaining the tower itself, cleaning soot from the chimney, oiling the gears, and checking the structural integrity of the building. It's a never-ending cycle, a dance with the elements and the machinery that keeps the light alive. And while the work is demanding, there's a strange peace in the routine. The lighthouse is your kingdom, your fortress against the chaos of the sea. You watch the horizon, waiting for the first sign of a ship, your eyes sharp despite the early hour. As the morning unfolds, you realize that this life is a blend of science, superstition, and sheer stubbornness. You're a guardian of the coast, a keeper of the flame, and sometimes just a lonely soul talking to a spinning lens and a flickering flame. The weather outside has a personality all its own, unpredictable, fierce, and utterly relentless. You step out onto the narrow balcony that wraps around the lighthouse, the wind immediately slapping your face with icy fingers. The Baltic Sea churns below, waves crashing against jagged rocks with a roar that drowns out your own thoughts. It's a wild, untamed world, and you're smack dab in the middle of it. Storms here are a way of life. You've learned to read the sky like a book, the sudden darkening of clouds, the sharp drop in temperature, the eerie stillness before the tempest. Sometimes the fog rolls in thick and fast, swallowing the coastline whole and turning the sea into a ghostly void. You squint into the grey, knowing that ships out there rely on your light to avoid a watery grave. Historians still argue whether the harsh Scandinavian weather was the primary reason lighthouse keepers developed such rigorous maintenance routines, or if it was more about the technology's fragility. Either way, the weather's wrath is a constant adversary. During a storm, your duties multiply. You secure every loose item on the balcony, brace the lantern room's windows against the buffeting wind, and double-check the oil lamps to ensure they won't flicker out. The lamp's flames are surprisingly delicate, and a sudden gust can snuff them out in an instant. You keep a spare lamp lit inside, ready to replace any that fail. The cold seeps through your thick woolen clothes, biting at your fingers and toes despite your best efforts. You've tried every trick to stay warm, layering clothes, stuffing your boots with straw, even wearing a knitted balaclava that makes you look like a confused ninja butt. The wind always finds a way in. On the plus side, you've become an expert at the lighthouse shuffle, a peculiar dance of quick steps and shivers designed to keep blood flowing. One quirky tidbit: some keepers swore by a concoction of crushed juniper berries and honey as a homemade remedy to stave off the chill and boost morale. It tasted like pine-flavoured cough syrup, but was believed to work wonders. You've tried it once or twice, mostly to humour the old journals you found tucked away in the keeper's quarters. The storms also bring visitors of a different kind, seabirds that cling desperately to the cliffs, their feathers ruffled and eyes wild. You watch as a brave puffin struggles against the wind, its comical waddle making you smile despite the gloom. These creatures are the lighthouse's unofficial mascots, sharing your isolated world and reminding you that life persists even in the harshest conditions. Inside, the tower creaks and groans under the storm's assault. You imagine the countless keepers before you who have weathered similar tempests, their stories etched into the very walls. Some say the lighthouse itself has a soul, a quiet strength that endures through centuries of wind and wave. As the storm rages on, you settle into your routine, the rhythm of tending the lamps and checking the mechanisms becoming a comforting anchor in the chaos. The light must never fail, no matter the weather, no matter the loneliness. And so you stand watch, a solitary figure against the storm, your beacon a steadfast promise to those lost at sea that someone, somewhere, is looking out for them. As the storm finally begins to abate, you find yourself settling into some of the stranger rituals that have become part of your daily life quirks born from solitude and the relentless ticking of time. You might chuckle to yourself, or maybe not, but these little habits are your lifelines, your ways to keep the creeping boredom and creeping madness at bay. For instance, there's the curious case of the lamp dance. No, it's not a fancy ballet, but a series of precise movements you perform around the lantern room to coax the flame into a steady glow. You tap the glass thrice, spin the wick just so, and whisper a few words half superstition, half habit. Keepers before you swore this ritual kept the light burning bright, and honestly, who are you to argue with centuries of tradition? Historians still argue whether these rituals were genuine beliefs or just clever ways to impose order on an otherwise chaotic existence. Then there's the odd collection of objects you've amassed over time. A smooth piece of driftwood, shaped like a whale, a cracked ceramic cup with a faded blue pattern, and a small jar filled with sand from a distant shore. These tokens are your companions, silent witnesses to your days and nights. You talk to them sometimes, giving each a name and a story, because when the only company is the wind, you get creative. Your journal is another outlet. You jot down everything: the weather, the ships you spot, the odd dreams that visit you in the long nights. Occasionally, you sketch the coastline or the lens's intricate prisms. This practice isn't just to pass time, it's a way to connect with the world beyond the tower walls. Some keepers even wrote poetry or composed songs, their verses carried away by the sea breeze. One particularly quirky tradition involves the lighthouse ghost. Stories abound of a spectral figure who wanders the tower at night, a former keeper who never left. Sometimes you catch a flicker of movement in the corner of your eye, or hear footsteps on the stairs when no one else is there. Whether it's a trick of the light or something more, the legend keeps you company and maybe a little on edge. The solitude also breeds a unique sense of humour. You find yourself making up jokes to tell the seagulls or naming the waves as they crash below. It's a bit like hosting a one-person comedy show with an audience of rocks and sea spray. You might joke that the lighthouse is the only place where talking to yourself is not only accepted but expected. Despite the quirks, there's a profound rhythm to this life. The rituals, the objects, the stories, they form a tapestry that keeps loneliness from unraveling you completely. You realize that in this isolated tower, surrounded by sea and sky, you've created a world rich with meaning and connection, even if it's mostly in your own head. So, as the evening approaches and the light prepares to take over the night watch, you embrace these peculiar habits. They are your armor against the silence, your way of saying, I am here and I will keep the light burning. The light itself is the lighthouse's beating heart, a marvel of 19th century ingenuity that you tend with almost religious care. You run your hands over the cool, polished brass of the Fresnel lens, marvelling at its concentric rings of glass prisms that focus the flame into a powerful beam. Invented by Augustin Jean Fresnel earlier in the century, this lens revolutionized maritime safety by allowing a single lamp to cast light visible for miles, a true lifesaver for countless sailors navigating Sweden's treacherous coastlines. The lens slowly rotates on a clockwork mechanism, powered by a heavy weight that you must wind up every few hours, a task that requires steady hands and patience. The gentle hum of the gears is a soothing backdrop to your otherwise quiet world. You've grown intimately familiar with every squeak and click, knowing that even the tiniest hiccup could cause the light to falter. Historians still argue whether the clockwork mechanisms were more prone to failure than the oil lamps themselves, but either way, your vigilance is crucial. You polish the glass prisms carefully, aware that even a speck of dust can scatter the light and reduce its reach. The lens is housed in the lantern room, a glass-walled chamber perched at the tower's summit, offering panoramic views of the sea and sky. It's a breathtaking vantage point, but also a cold, drafty perch exposed to the elements. The light's rotation creates a mesmerizing effect, a sweeping beam that cuts through the darkness like a giant eye scanning the horizon. You watch as it passes over the waves, a silent guardian searching for ships in distress. The rhythm of the turning lens becomes hypnotic, a steady pulse in the otherwise still night. Interestingly, some keepers believed the light had a personality, almost a living presence that needed tending beyond the mechanical. They spoke to it, coaxed it, and sometimes blamed it for misfortunes when ships still ran aground despite their best efforts. You might smile at the idea, but after months alone with the light, it doesn't seem so far-fetched. Maintaining the lens and its mechanism is a delicate balance of science and art. You oil the gears sparingly to avoid attracting dust, adjust the weights with precision, and keep the glass spotless. The slightest misalignment could send the beam off course, turning a beacon of hope into a misleading signal. As you work, the sun dips below the horizon and the light prepares to take over the night watch. You feel a quiet pride in your role, knowing that your careful hands and steady attention keep this vital signal burning bright. The lighthouse is more than stone and glass. It's a lifeline, a promise, and a testament to human ingenuity, standing firm against nature's fury. So, as darkness falls and the first stars appear, you wind the mechanism one last time, ready to let the light sweep across the sea and guide the way for those who dare to venture into the night. Your stomach rumbles softly, reminding you that even the most dedicated lighthouse keeper can't ignore the call of hunger. Food in this remote tower is a study in simplicity and endurance, a far cry from the gourmet meals you might imagine. The pantry is stocked with staples that can withstand long periods without fresh supplies: hardtack biscuits, salted fish, dried peas, and a modest dash of preserved berries. Fresh produce is a rare luxury, often arriving by boat when the weather permits. You prepare a humble meal by the small stove in your quarters, the warmth a welcome contrast to the chill seeping through the stone walls. The scent of boiling water and stewing peas fills the room, mingling with the faint aroma of the oil lamps. It's a modest feast, but it sustains you through the long hours ahead. Historians still argue whether lighthouse keepers' diets contributed to their often robust health, or if the monotony and lack of fresh food led to chronic ailments. Some journals hint at scurvy outbreaks, while others praise the resilience of those who lived on these isolated outposts. When weather and time allow, you venture down to the rocky shore to forage for wild treats. Seaweed is surprisingly nutritious and a staple for many coastal dwellers. You gather kelp and bladderwrack, adding a salty crunch to your meals. Occasionally you find mussels clinging to the rocks or spot a cluster of wild berries hidden among the scrubby bushes. These small discoveries are a welcome break from the routine and a reminder of nature's generosity. One quirky tidbit. Some keepers brewed a kind of seaweed tea, a bitter but invigorating drink, believed to ward off colds and boost energy. You've tried it once or twice, grimacing at the taste, but appreciating the warmth it provides on damp days. Preserving food is an art in itself. You dry fish over a small rack near the stove, the smoky aroma filling the room and attracting curious seagulls outside. Salted meats are carefully rationed, and you rotate your supplies to prevent spoilage. Fresh water is collected from rain or melted snow, stored in barrels and treated to keep it drinkable. Despite the simplicity, meals are moments of comfort and routine. You savour the quiet, the crackle of the fire, and the occasional glimpse of sunlight filtering through the small window. Food becomes more than sustenance. It's a connection to life beyond the tower's walls. As you eat, you reflect on the resilience required to live here, the patience, the adaptability, and the quiet determination. The lighthouse is a demanding master, but it also offers a unique rhythm and purpose. So, with a full belly and a steady heart, you prepare to face the rest of the day, knowing that every meal is a small victory in this isolated world. Visitors to your remote lighthouse are as rare as a sunny day in a Swedish winter, but when they do come, they bring a burst of life and stories that ripple through your solitary existence. Most often, these guests are fishermen or sailors seeking shelter from sudden storms, or perhaps a government inspector checking on the lighthouse's condition. Their arrival is a welcome disruption, a chance to exchange news from the outside world and share a warm meal by the stove. You listen intently to their tales of distant ports, treacherous waters, and the latest gossip from coastal villages. These stories are your window beyond the rocky cliffs and endless sea, connecting you to a world that seems both near and impossibly far away. Sometimes you find yourself embellishing your own stories, adding a dash of drama or humour to keep the conversation lively. After all, when you're the only person for miles, a good story is as valuable as fresh bread. Historians still argue whether lighthouse keepers were truly isolated, or if these occasional visits provided enough social interaction to stave off loneliness. Some accounts suggest keepers formed tight-knit networks through letters and rare meetings, while others describe a more solitary existence. But visitors aren't just flesh and blood. The lighthouse is steeped in ghost stories and whispered legends passed down through generations. You've heard tales of spectral figures wandering the tower's spiral stairs, mysterious lights flickering in the dead of night, and strange sounds echoing through the stone walls. Some say these are the restless spirits of former keepers who never left their posts, forever bound to the light they tended. One particularly eerie story involves a phantom ship that appears on foggy nights, its ghostly sails billowing silently as it glides past the lighthouse. Mariners claim that seeing this apparition is an omen sometimes of doom, sometimes of salvation. You can't help but shiver when the fog rolls in thick and the lighthouse's beam cuts through the mist like a knife. Despite the spooky tales, you find comfort in the idea that you're part of a long lineage of keepers, connected by shared experiences and the unspoken bond of solitude. The ghosts, real or imagined, are reminders that you're not truly alone. As night falls and the visitors depart, you settle back into your quiet vigil. The stories linger in your mind, weaving into the fabric of your own narrative, a tapestry of human connection amidst the vast, lonely sea. And so, with the lighthouse standing tall and the light burning bright, you embrace the silence once more, ready for whatever the night may bring. Maintenance is the never-ending saga of lighthouse life, a constant battle against the wear and tear inflicted by wind, salt, and time. You know every creak of the wooden stairs, every crack in the plaster, and every stubborn rust spot on the metal fittings. The lighthouse is a living thing, demanding your attention and care, lest it fall into disrepair and fail in its vital role. You start the day by inspecting the exterior walls, running your hands over the rough whitewash, checking for chips and cracks where moisture might sneak in. The salty sea air is relentless, eating away at paint and mortar alike. You mix fresh lime wash from a dusty barrel, applying it with steady strokes to protect the stone beneath. It's a tedious task, but one that must be done regularly to keep the tower standing strong. Inside, the wooden stairs groan underfoot, their surfaces worn smooth by generations of keepers. You tighten loose bolts and replace broken steps, mindful that a single misstep could lead to a dangerous fall. The handrails are polished to a dull shine, a small comfort in this otherwise utilitarian space. The lantern room requires special attention. You clean the glass panes daily, scraping away salt deposits and grime that would otherwise dim the light. The brass fittings gleam after careful polishing, and you oil the delicate clockwork mechanism that rotates the lens, ensuring it turns smoothly and steadily through the night. Historians still argue whether keepers spent more time on maintenance or on tending the light itself. Some diaries suggest that up to half the day was devoted to repairs, while others emphasize the importance of the light's operation. Either way, you know that neglecting maintenance is not an option. One quirky maintenance ritual involves the use of whale oil, not just for lamps, but also as a lubricant for metal parts. The thick, viscous oil was prized for its ability to protect against rust, though it left a lingering, somewhat unpleasant smell. You've become accustomed to the scent, which clings to your clothes and hair like a stubborn seaweed. You also keep an eye on the tower's foundation, watching for signs of erosion or shifting rock. The sea is a constant threat, gnawing away at the cliffs and threatening to undermine the lighthouse's precarious perch. You've seen the results of neglect on other towers' leaning walls, cracked masonry, and, in worst cases, collapse. Despite the hard work, there's a satisfying rhythm to maintenance. Each repair is a small victory, a reassurance that the lighthouse will continue to stand and shine. The physical labour keeps you grounded, your mind focused on tangible tasks rather than the creeping loneliness. As the day wears on and the sun dips low, you step back to admire your work. The lighthouse stands proud and ready, a beacon of safety forged by your own hands. It's a reminder that even in isolation, your efforts have a profound impact. So, with tools packed away and the light preparing to take over the night watch, you breathe a quiet sigh of satisfaction. The lighthouse is alive, and so are you. Isolation is the uninvited companion that shadows every step you take in this towering sentinel by the sea. Days stretch into weeks, and weeks into months, with only the endless horizon and the ceaseless rhythm of the waves for company. The silence is profound, broken only by the occasional cry of a gull or the distant thunder of surf against rocks. You quickly learn that isolation isn't just about being alone, it's about confronting the vast emptiness within and without. Psychologists today would probably diagnose lighthouse keepers with a form of sensory deprivation, but back then you had no such labels, just an acute awareness of your own thoughts echoing louder than ever. You develop coping strategies, some practical, others bordering on the eccentric. For instance, you might pace the spiral staircase multiple times a day, counting steps to keep your mind sharp. Or you invent elaborate conversations with the lighthouse itself, imagining it as a living entity that listens and responds. Historians still argue whether the psychological toll of isolation was mitigated by the keeper's sense of purpose, or if it led to chronic loneliness and mental strain. Some journals reveal episodes of depression and hallucinations, while others describe a serene acceptance and even joy in solitude. One quirky coping mechanism you adopt is creating imaginary visitors characters with distinct personalities who pop into your mind during long watches. You hold conversations, debate the weather, or plan imaginary voyages together. It's a bit like hosting a one-person theatre, and sometimes you wonder if the seagulls outside are judging your performance. Sleep patterns become another challenge. The constant noise of the sea, the irregular hours dictated by tending the lamp, and the absence of natural social cues disrupt your circadian rhythm. You find yourself napping in short bursts, always alert for the faintest sign of danger. Your dreams are vivid, sometimes blending reality and fantasy in strange ways. Interestingly, some keepers kept detailed diaries not just of their duties, but of their mental states, providing a rare glimpse into the human side of lighthouse life. These writings reveal moments of profound loneliness, but also resilience and creativity in the face of isolation. You also find solace in small rituals, brewing a strong cup of coffee, reading worn books, or sketching the ever-changing sea. These acts become anchors, grounding you in the present and providing a sense of normalcy. As the days pass, you realize that isolation shapes you as much as the lighthouse shapes the coastline. It's a test of endurance, patience, and self-awareness. And while it can be lonely, it also offers a unique claritia chance to listen deeply to the world and to yourself. So, as night falls and the light begins its steady sweep, you embrace the solitude, knowing that in this quiet vigil you are both guardian and witness to the vast, wild beauty around you. Living in a lighthouse isn't just a solitary endeavour. For many keepers, it's a family affair, a small community confined within stone walls and salty air. Your family shares this isolated world, adapting to the cramped quarters and the rhythm dictated by the sea and the light. It's a life unlike any other, where privacy is scarce and every moment is spent in close proximity to loved ones. Your spouse might handle domestic duties, cooking, cleaning, and caring for the children, while you tend the light and maintain the tower. Children grow up with the sea as their playground, learning early to respect its power and unpredictability. They might attend school in a nearby village, if weather and transport allow, or be taught at home through books and lessons from their parents. Historians still argue whether lighthouse families thrived in these conditions, or if the isolation and harsh environment took a toll on relationships. Some accounts speak of strong bonds forged through shared hardship, while others hint at tensions and the strain of confinement. Space is at a premium. Your living quarters are small but functional, with narrow beds tucked into corners and a communal table where meals are shared. Privacy is a luxury rarely afforded, and personal space is negotiated with patience and understanding. Yet there's a warmth in this closeness, a sense of togetherness that counters the loneliness outside. Children often develop a unique resilience and independence, accustomed to the rhythms of lighthouse life. They learn to navigate the rocky terrain, understand the workings of the light, and even assist in small tasks. Their laughter echoes through the tower, a bright contrast to the howling wind and crashing waves. One quirky aspect is the tradition of lightkeepers' tales, passed down through familiar histories of daring rescues, ghostly encounters, and the peculiar habits of past keepers. These tales become part of the family lore, binding generations together. Food and supplies are shared and rationed carefully, with everyone pitching in to stretch resources through long winters and stormy seasons. Celebrations are modest, but meaningful birthdays marked with simple cakes and songs. Holidays brightened by the flicker of candlelight and the glow of the beacon. Living as a family in a lighthouse demands adaptability, cooperation, and a deep appreciation for the small joys. It's a life of contrasts, intense isolation, balanced by intimate connection, harsh conditions softened by love and routine. As you tuck your children into their narrow beds and share a quiet moment with your partner, you feel the profound bond that sustains you all. The lighthouse is more than a tower. It's a home, a refuge, and a testament to the strength of family in the face of nature's vastness. And as the light begins its nightly sweep, you know that together you keep the beacon burning bright, not just for sailors at sea, but for each other. Communication in this isolated outpost is a lifeline, a fragile thread connecting you to the outside world and the ships that rely on your beacon. Without modern radios or instant messaging, the methods are simple but effective, relying on signals, flags, and sometimes the occasional courier boat braving the unpredictable sea. During daylight, you use signal flags, brightly coloured pieces of cloth arranged in specific patterns to convey messages to passing ships or nearby settlements. Each flag has a meaning, and combinations can spell out warnings, weather conditions, or requests for supplies. You've memorized the entire code, waving the flags with practiced precision, hoping the sailors spot them in time. At night, the lighthouse's very light becomes a form of communication. The beams pattern its flashes, duration, and interval serves as a unique signature, identifying your specific lighthouse to mariners. This system, known as the light's characteristic, helps sailors pinpoint their location along the treacherous coastline. You carefully maintain the timing, knowing that a misstep could confuse or mislead a ship. Historians still argue how effective these early communication methods truly were, especially in poor weather. Some suggest that the system's limitations contributed to shipwrecks, while others highlight the remarkable ingenuity and reliability given the era's technology. Occasionally, you receive messages via semaphoria system of mechanical arms positioned on towers or ships to spell out words. It's a slow process, but it adds another layer to the communication network. You've practiced reading and sending semaphore signals, a skill that feels almost like a secret code shared among a select few. Courier boats are rare but vital. When the weather calms, a small vessel might arrive bearing letters, supplies, or news from the mainland. These visits are eagerly anticipated, bringing fresh food, newspapers, and sometimes a brief chance for human connection beyond the lighthouse walls. One quirky communication method involved using mirrors to flash sunlight during the dire, sort of optical telegraph. You've tried it a few times, aiming the mirror's glint at distant ships or neighbouring lighthouses, feeling a bit like a maritime disco ball. Inside the tower, you keep a logbook, meticulously recording every signal sent and received, every ship sighted, and every message delivered. This record is crucial for coordinating with other lighthouses and maritime authorities. Communication is more than just practical. It's a reassurance that you're part of a larger network, a community united by the sea and the shared mission of safety. As the light sweeps across the dark waters, you feel connected not just to the ships out there, but to the world beyond the waves, a world that depends on your watchful eye and steady hand. The seasons here are dramatic characters in their own right, shaping your life and the lighthouse's rhythm with stark contrasts. Summers bring the midnight sun, a surreal time when darkness never fully descends, and the light you tend becomes more of a symbol than a necessity. Winters, on the other hand, cloak the landscape in endless night, with biting cold and fierce storms that test your endurance and the lighthouse's resilience. During the summer months, you find yourself adjusting to the strange twilight that bathes the world in a soft golden glow at all hours. The sun dips low but never quite sets, casting long shadows and illuminating the sea with a gentle shimmer. It's a beautiful but disorienting time, and you sometimes struggle to maintain a regular sleep schedule. The lighthouse's lamp is dimmed or even extinguished during these weeks, as the natural light is enough to guide ships safely. You take advantage of the extended daylight to perform maintenance and enjoy brief moments outside, feeling the warmth on your face and the scent of wildflowers carried on the breeze. Historians still argue how lighthouse keepers coped with the extreme light conditions, whether the midnight sun was a welcome reprieve or an added challenge to their already irregular routines. Some diaries describe sleepless nights and restless pacing, while others celebrate the vibrant life that blooms in summer's glow. Come autumn, the days shorten rapidly, and the lighthouse awakens from its summer slumber. You prepare the lamps, stock up on oil, and brace yourself for the long months ahead. The wind picks up, carrying a sharp edge that hints at the coming cold. Winter is a different beast altogether. Darkness envelops the coast for weeks on end, broken only by the lighthouse's steadfast beam cutting through fog and snow. The cold is relentless, seeping through even the thickest clothing and chilling you to the bone. Storms rage with fury, battering the tower and sending waves crashing high against the cliffs. You hunker down inside, tending the lamps with extra care, knowing that any failure could spell disaster for ships navigating blind in the night. One quirky winter tradition involves the keeper baking extra bread and pastries, sharing them with the occasional passing sailor or neighbouring keepers who brave the storm for supplies. These small acts of kindness are bright spots in the dark season. The changing seasons also bring shifts in wildlife. Seabirds migrate, seals haul out on distant ice floes, and the sea itself seems to breathe differently with the temperature. You watch these cycles with a quiet fascination, finding comfort in the predictable changes amid the unpredictability of weather. Living through the seasons is a profound lesson in patience and adaptation. Each brings its own challenges and rewards, shaping your days and nights in this remote outpost. As you prepare the light for another long winter's night, you feel a deep connection to the natural world, a reminder that even in isolation, you are part of a vast, ever-changing cycle. Wildlife is an unexpected companion in your isolated lighthouse world, a reminder that life persists even in the harshest conditions. From the noisy seabirds that wheel overhead to the curious seals that haul themselves onto nearby rocks, these creatures share your rugged domain, each adapting in their own way to the relentless sea and weather. Seagulls are the most constant presence, their cries echoing off the cliffs and mingling with the wind. They're both a nuisance and a comfort, stealing scraps from your meals one moment, then perching silently nearby the next. You've learned to recognize individual gulls by their calls and markings, giving them nicknames like Squawk and Captain Beak. It's a quirky way to stave off loneliness, but it works. Historians still argue whether lighthouse keepers actively interacted with local wildlife or simply tolerated their presence. Some journals describe keepers feeding birds and even training dogs to herd seals away from sensitive areas, while others suggest a more hands-off approach. Puffins are another delightful sight during the warmer months, their colourful beaks and awkward waddle making them a favourite among keepers. Watching them dive and resurface in the choppy waters offers a brief escape from the tower's confinement. You sometimes imagine what it would be like to join them, plunging into the cold sea and riding the waves. Seals are the lighthouse's unofficial neighbours, often lounging on sun-warmed rocks or slipping silently beneath the waves. Their curious eyes sometimes meet yours, as if checking in on the strange human who tends the light. You've even spotted the occasional otter, darting through kelp beds with playful agility. One quirky tidbit. Some keepers believed that certain birds were omen puffins signalling good weather, while crows warned of storms. You've caught yourself watching the skies, hoping for a puffin's cheerful return, or dreading the ominous caw of a crow. The lighthouse's rocky shores also attract a variety of hardy plants and lichens, clinging stubbornly to cracks and crevices. These small bursts of green and colour are a quiet testament to life's persistence, a reminder that even in isolation, the world is teeming with vitality. You've come to appreciate these natural companions, their presence a soothing counterpoint to the solitude. They remind you that you're part of a larger ecosystem, connected to the rhythms of the sea and sky. As the light sweeps across the dark waters, you glance out at the wildlife that shares your vigil, feeling a quiet kinship with these resilient creatures. Your tools and technology are your lifelines in this remote lighthouse, the essential gear that keeps the beacon burning and the tower standing firm against the elements. You've become intimately familiar with every piece of equipment, from the delicate clockwork that rotates the Fresnel lens to the sturdy oil cans and maintenance tools stored in the cramped workshop. The clockwork mechanism is a marvel of precision engineering, powered by a heavy weight that you wind carefully every few hours. It turns the massive lens with a steady, hypnotic rhythm. You oil the gears sparingly, mindful that too much lubricant attracts dust and grit, while too little risks a grinding halt. The mechanism's smooth hum is a comforting soundtrack to your solitary vigil. Historians still argue whether the clockwork or the oil lamps were the more frequent source of mechanical failure. Some records suggest that keepers spent more time repairing the rotating mechanism than tending the flame, while others emphasize the delicate balance required to keep both functioning flawlessly. Your oil lamps are another critical component. Whale oil was the preferred fuel for much of the century, prized for its clean, bright burn, but it was expensive and sometimes scarce. Colza oil, pressed from rapeseed, was a common alternative, though it produced more soot and required more frequent cleaning. You've become adept at managing the fuel supply, rationing carefully to ensure the light never falters. The lantern room's glass panes are thick and sturdy, but vulnerable to the relentless assault of wind, rain, and salt spray. You keep a supply of replacement panes on hand, along with tools for patching cracks and sealing leaks. The windows must be spotless to allow the light to shine unimpeded, so you clean them daily with a mixture of vinegar and water, buffing them to a crystal clarity. One quirky gadget you keep is a hand-cranked foghorn, used during thick fog when the light alone isn't enough. The deep, mournful blast cuts through the mist, warning ships of nearby hazards. Operating the foghorn is hard work, requiring strength and timing, but it's a vital part of your toolkit. You also maintain a small collection of navigational charts and logbooks, recording weather patterns, ship sightings, and maintenance activities. These records are crucial for coordinating with other lighthouses and maritime authorities, creating a network of safety along the coast. Your clothing and gear reflect the harsh, environment-thick woolen garments, oilskin coats, sturdy boots, and knitted hats to fend off the cold. You've learned to layer effectively, balancing warmth with mobility, and you keep spare clothes carefully stored to dry after storms. In this isolated world, your tools are more than just objects. They're extensions of yourself, essential for survival and the fulfillment of your duty. Each piece has a story, a purpose, and a place in the delicate ecosystem of lighthouse keeping. As you wind the clockwork one last time and prepare the lamps for the night, you feel a quiet pride in the technology that makes your solitary vigil possible, a blend of human ingenuity and steadfast determination shining bright against the dark. Legends and lore swirl around the lighthouse like the ever-present sea mist, weaving a tapestry of mystery and intrigue that colours your solitary days and long nights. These stories, passed down through generations of keepers and coastal folk, add a layer of enchantment to the stark reality of lighthouse life. One enduring legend tells of a keeper who vanished without a trace during a fierce winter storm, his ghost said to haunt the spiral stairs, appearing as a flickering shadow in the lantern room. Some say his spirit still tends the light during the darkest nights, ensuring no ship is left without guidance. You sometimes catch yourself glancing over your shoulder, half expecting to see that familiar silhouette. Historians still argue whether these ghost stories were genuine beliefs or clever tales designed to keep keepers vigilant and morale high. Some suggest the isolation and eerie atmosphere fueled imaginations, while others believe in the spiritual presence of those who dedicated their lives to the light. Another popular tale involves the lighthouse mermaid, a mysterious figure said to appear on foggy nights, singing haunting melodies that lure sailors away from danger or, in darker versions, toward the rocks. You've heard whispers of keepers who claimed to hear her song carried on the wind, a bittersweet reminder of the sea's beauty and peril. Local fishermen often share stories of miraculous rescues attributed to the lighthouse's unwavering beam, crediting the keeper's dedication with saving lives against impossible odds. These tales bolster your sense of purpose, reminding you that your solitary watch has profound consequences. One quirky piece of lore involves a secret light keeper's handshake, a subtle gesture exchanged between keepers during rare meetings, symbolizing their shared bond and understanding of the lighthouse's demands. You've never met another keeper in person, but you imagine the handshake as a silent pact of endurance and resilience. The lighthouse itself is a character in these stories, sometimes a benevolent guardian, other times a stern taskmaster. Its stone walls hold echoes of laughter, tears, and whispered prayers, creating a palpable sense of history and connection. As you tend the light and listen to the wind's mournful song, you feel part of this rich tapestry, a living thread in the ongoing story of the lighthouse and its keepers. So, as the night deepens and the beam sweeps across the dark waters, you embrace the legends that surround you, finding comfort and companionship in the tales that light your way. The lighthouse you tend is more than a solitary tower. It's a vital cog in Sweden's maritime safety and economic network. In the 19th century, Sweden's coastline was bustling with trade and fishing, and safe navigation was essential to keep goods flowing and communities thriving. Your beacon plays a crucial role in guiding ships through treacherous waters, preventing costly shipwrecks and loss of life. The Baltic Sea was a busy thoroughfare, connecting Sweden to neighbouring countries and distant markets. Timber, iron, and grain were among the goods transported along these routes. Every night, your light slices through fog and darkness, a silent guardian, ensuring that these valuable cargoes reach their destinations. Without lighthouses like yours, maritime trade would have been far riskier and less reliable. Historians still argue about the extent to which lighthouses directly influenced economic growth in coastal regions. Some credit them with dramatically reducing shipwrecks and boosting commerce, while others point to improvements in ship design and navigation techniques as equally important factors. Your lighthouse is part of a network, each tower carefully positioned to cover gaps and provide overlapping beams. This system creates a safety net for mariners, allowing them to chart their course with confidence. You coordinate with other keepers through signals and logs, contributing to a collective effort that spans the coastline. The economic importance of your role is underscored by the investment in technology and maintenance. Fresnel lenses, oil supplies, and sturdy construction don't come cheap, but they're seen as essential expenses to protect lives and commerce. Your steady hand and watchful eye ensure that this investment pays off night after night. One quirky historical tidbit is that some lighthouses doubled as customs posts or lookout stations for smuggling activities. Keepers sometimes found themselves in the unexpected role of law enforcement, watching not just for ships in distress, but for illicit cargo slipping through the shadows. You take pride in knowing that your solitary vigil supports a larger purposer lifeline for sailors, a safeguard for trade, and a beacon of Sweden's maritime heritage. As the light sweeps across the dark waters, you feel connected to the bustling world beyond the cliffs, a quiet guardian of commerce and safety. Historians still argue about many aspects of lighthouse keeping in the 19th century, and your life here is no exception. One ongoing debate centres on the true nature of the keeper's experience. Was it a noble calling, filled with quiet dignity, or a lonely, punishing existence on the fringes of society? Some scholars emphasize the pride and responsibility keepers felt, while others highlight the psychological toll of isolation and the harsh conditions. Another point of contention is the effectiveness of the technology itself. While Fresnel lenses and oil lamps were revolutionary, some argue that frequent mechanical failures and weather-related challenges limited their reliability. You've experienced firsthand the delicate dance of keeping the light burning through storms and freezing temperatures, knowing that even a minor malfunction could have dire consequences. There's also debate about the social status of keepers. Were they respected members of their communities or overlooked labourers? Records show a mix. Some keepers were well regarded, even celebrated, while others lived in obscurity, their sacrifices largely unnoticed. One quirky scholarly discussion involves the role of superstition and ritual in lighthouse keeping. Some historians suggest these practices were coping mechanisms, while others see them as genuine beliefs that influenced daily operations. Your own habit stepping the glass, whispering to the light fit right into this debate. Despite these uncertainties, what remains clear is the keeper's crucial role in maritime safety. Your dedication and vigilance embody a tradition that has saved countless lives and shaped coastal history. As you wind the clockwork and polish the lens, you become part of this ongoing conversational living link between past and present, fact and folklore. The lighthouse stands not just as a physical structure, but as a symbol of human perseverance, ingenuity, and the complex interplay of history and myth. And so you continue your watch, aware that your story is woven into the broader tapestry of lighthouse lore and scholarship. The end of an era is quietly unfolding around you as the 19th century gives way to new technologies and changing times. The traditional role of the lighthouse keeper, once seen as indispensable, begins to shift with the advent of automation and improved navigational aids. You sense the winds of change blowing through the tower, subtle but inevitable. Electric lights and automated mechanisms promise to reduce the need for constant human presence. Some lighthouses have already installed clockwork systems powered by electricity, and experiments with acetylene gas lamps hint at a future where keepers might no longer be needed to tend the flame every night. This progress is both exciting and bittersweet. Your solitary vigil, the rhythms and rituals that have defined your life, may soon become relics of the past. Historians still argue about the pace and impact of automation on lighthouse keeping communities. Some see it as a liberation from grueling labour and isolation, while others mourn the loss of a unique way of life and the personal touch that keepers brought to their duties. You notice the gradual decline in supply deliveries and the reduced frequency of inspections as authorities test these new technologies. The lighthouse feels quieter, less alive without the constant bustle of human activity. You wonder what will become of the tower once automation takes over. Will it stand as a monument to a bygone era, or be repurposed for something new? One quirky historical note is that some keepers resisted automation, fearing that machines could never match the reliability and care of a human watchman. Stories abound of keepers secretly maintaining old lamps or mechanisms long after official orders to switch to automated systems. As you prepare the lamp for another night, you feel a mix of pride and melancholy. You are part of a fading tradition, a guardian of light whose time is slowly passing. Yet the lighthouse remains steadfast, its beam cutting through the darkness as it always has, a symbol of continuity amid change. And so you hold your watch a little longer, savouring the quiet dignity of this final chapter in the age of the lighthouse keeper. Though the age of the traditional lighthouse keeper is drawing to a close, modern echoes of your solitary vigil resonate through today's coastal guardianship. Many lighthouses have been automated, but the spirit of dedication and care lives on in those who maintain and preserve these historic structures. You find comfort in knowing that your legacy endures, even as technology advances. Today's lighthouses often serve dual roles as navigational aids and as cultural landmarks. Some have been converted into museums or guest houses, inviting visitors to experience a slice of the keeper's life. You imagine tourists wandering the spiral stairs, marvelling at the Fresnel lens, and hearing stories of the long nights spent tending the light. Historians still debate how well modern preservation efforts capture the authentic experience of lighthouse life. Some argue that tourism and commercialization risk sanitizing the harsh realities, while others see these efforts as vital to keeping history alive. Modern keepers, though fewer, often work in teams and benefit from advanced technology, electric lights, remote monitoring, and reliable communication systems. Yet, the core values remain: vigilance, responsibility, and a deep connection to the sea. One quirky modern development is the use of drones for lighthouse inspections, replacing the perilous climbs and manual checks you once performed. While efficient, you can't help but feel a twinge of nostalgia for the hands-on care and intimate knowledge that came with personal maintenance. The surrounding communities also honour lighthouse heritage through festivals, storytelling, and preservation societies. These events celebrate the keeper's resilience and the beacon's role in maritime safety. As you reflect on the lighthouse's evolution, you recognise that while the tools and routines have changed, the essence of the keeper's watch, the commitment to protect and guide, remains steadfast. So, as the modern light sweeps across the waters, you feel a quiet pride, knowing that your solitary vigil helped lay the foundation for this enduring legacy. The lighthouse continues to shine, bridging past and present, a timeless symbol of hope and safety. As you reflect on your years within these stone walls, the lighthouse stands not just as a beacon for ships, but as a monument to human endurance and spirit. Your solitary watch has been a journey through time, weather, and emotion, a testament to the quiet heroism of those who choose duty over comfort. The light you tend is more than a physical flame. It symbolizes hope, guidance, and safety for countless souls navigating the unpredictable sea. Each night, as the beam cuts through fog and darkness, you feel a profound connection to those lives you help protect, a bond forged in the shared vulnerability between keeper and sailor. Your story, like those of countless keepers before you, is woven into the fabric of maritime history. It is a narrative of resilience, adaptation, and unwavering commitment. Though the world changes and technology evolves, the essence of your vigil remains a guardian's promise to stand watch no matter the cost. Historians will continue to study and debate the nuances of lighthouse life, but the human element, the loneliness, the rituals, the triumphs, and the quiet moments will always resonate. Your experiences add a vital chapter to this ongoing tale. As dawn breaks on another day, you prepare to descend the spiral stairs, the weight of your responsibility both heavy and honourable. The sea stretches endlessly before you, vast and mysterious, but your light shines steadfast, a beacon in the vastness. And so, the lighthouse keeper's legacy endures not just in stone and glass, but in the hearts of those who understand the profound duty of tending the light. Thank you for joining this journey into the isolated world of a 19th century Swedish lighthouse keeper. May the light you carry, whether literal or metaphorical, guide you safely through your own voyages